Do you have me? Oh, sure.
Can you hear me?
I got you now.
There we go. How we doing this evening?
Good. I have no idea what I did or you did, but all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I have nothing. Now I have you.
Dude, I don't know. We're doing this on the fly, as you can tell. We got a lot to talk about, though, man. Oklahoma, you may or may not have heard, picked up a pretty good win last week on the road in Neyland Stadium, a night game in Neyland. Randy, not a lot of people go in there and beat Tennessee's ass under those circumstances. The second time this year, Oklahoma, after a very tough loss, has gone on the road and won an SEC game. Look, I'm impressed. We're going to talk, some sloppiness. There's always negatives when things happen, but dude, I don't care. That's twice in this league. You go on the road after a loss when things don't look very good and win. That's telling to me about what's being built in Norman.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it shows, we've talked about all year long, you want to see growth from this program, from this team. And I think this year you're seeing that growth. Is it perfect? Not by any stretch. It's not there yet. But is it growth? To your point, last year this happens. That team craters and loses to Tennessee and may lose out the rest of the year. I mean, it kind of happened almost that exact way last year.
Right.
This year you see the team bounce back and fight, and even after getting punched twice early in that game. Really, I guess just once, but you know what I mean. They went down and scored, after the pass interference on Cortland Guillory, took advantage of it. Tennessee scores. Oklahoma got back off the mat. And what I liked about it, even though the defense has been great all year long, the defense did something for the offense it hasn't done all year long, on a consistent basis. And it responded in that first half. The scoop and score for a touchdown, two more interceptions. They helped an offense out that was trying to figure its way out in that first half.
Yeah, and let's call it like it is. I mean, if that, Owen Heineke blitz off the edge and the R. Mason Thomas scoop and score doesn't happen, I mean, Tennessee's driving at that point, already up 7-0. They've got the momentum, the crowd's behind them. Even a field goal kind of hurts Oklahoma. And that defense that we've talked about all year as being one of the best in the country didn't just play, they made a play. And to me, it was a game saving play. It completely flipped the momentum, I thought, and gave Oklahoma the feeling on the sideline that we can actually do this and win. It muddied it up just enough because Oklahoma's offense was pathetic the first half, 89 total yards. They didn't really try to establish anything on the ground. Mateer seemed to be rushed, not settled down yet. But that defense, Randy, we've talked about it all year. It's going to keep them in games. It did exactly that and more.
Well, no doubt. And really, I think in the end, not only with the turnovers, and yes, they got 300 yards of offense in the first half, and everything Tennessee did, but they played that old school way of defense, the bend but don't break. Like, hey, fine, we're going to give up yardage. We're going to give up a few big plays. And to be honest, that's what a lot of teams do around the country nowadays.
Yep.
And they played it to perfection in the sense of, all right, you got the one touchdown, we're holding you to field goal, and then we're going to force a few turnovers to give our offense a chance. And whether they would have got that last interception and gone up 16-10 or not, I think the confidence level that the defense had at that point in time gave the coaching staff a chance to get with that offense at halftime and kind of go, guys, there's opportunities. And you saw it when they started the second half, especially in that second drive. They came out and just, said, all right, we're better, or we're just as good as this team, and our offensive line can take control. And that's what I like. The offensive line really started taking control in that second half.
Yeah, the same five guys for the majority of the game that played and then looked really good a week ago, in the loss. Eddie Pierre Louis there at guard and Mike Vizzusi, Ryan Foje, kind of the youngsters we talked about preseason. You understand why you, of course, go with a veteran, Simmons at the tackle. It wasn't that he was bad. And like Ozaida at guard, he wasn't bad, but it just seems to me these guys that have stepped in, I don't know if it's a chemistry thing, playing together, as a five, but they just look better. And you got Xavier Robinson running behind that. It all goes hand in hand, Randy. I mean, Xavier looks good because the offensive line is opening holes, and the offensive line looks good because Xavier Robinson actually hits the holes. It's just stuff we weren't seeing earlier in this year.
No doubt. And I'll say this, I'll defend Simmons a little. And I know you weren't ripping him, but a lot of people are like, oh, it's naturally. Why wasn't he in there all along? Go
No,
back to the South Carolina game when they ran the ball really well against South Carolina.
yeah,
Simmons was in there, so I kind of get the not rushing to put Boj at tackle, or anything like that. The other guys, 100% with you. Why EPL wasn't in there earlier? That's the head scratcher to me. I mean, it's nothing against Heath Ozida. You just look at EPL, and we kind of knew it at the end of last year, Dave, when you watched him when he got his chance, kind of going, this kid's legit. And you can see it feels like that youth. Those three young guys have got his chemistry. And that's what's great for this Oklahoma team. Not only about this year, but when you look ahead to next year, Dave,
Mm-hmm.
that offensive line has got a chance to be very, very formidable.
Yeah, and it's not like no, it's not ripping anybody individual like Ozida or Simmons. It just seems like this mesh of guys, for whatever reason, they just gel better when they're on the field. That they move together as a unit better. They're almost fired up to play with each other, and we haven't seen that with an OU offensive line really since Brent has been in town. I love seeing banging helmets before the game and those guys dancing around out there in the fourth quarter, staying loose. Man, that's what you need to go on the road, win in Neyland. You also need a rushing game. Randy Xavier Robinson outpaces Torrey Blaylock 16 touches to 1. I'm a little bit surprised at the complete drop off from Blaylock. I thought they'd kind of mix those as a 1-2 punch, but in the
That's
end, I think the right guy got the majority of the totes.
Yeah, from what I've been told, and we've all heard, that's kind of a health issue with Blaylock. He really got banged up in fall practice and everything like that. And I believe it was the South Carolina game. They feel like maybe he re-aggravated that shoulder injury, and he's still just slowly coming back. Because I think in the end of the day, and I'm with you, X getting the majority of the carries, that's fine. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a situation where X is going to get 15 to 16 carries, and you're going to see Blaylock probably get 10 to 12. Because I think they really like it, but it's just trying to get him back where he can be the Blaylock we saw against South Carolina, that you saw against Temple, that guy. And I don't think he's been there for a few weeks now.
Yeah, precautionary is kind of what I was told for his shoulder this week. He could have gone, I guess, if needed, but they looked at X and said, why? I mean, the guy's toting the mail just fine. But I still want to see that because we've talked about it all year. I think that change of pace is awesome. You got Robert Robinson at 240 pounds coming downhill between the tackles. Then you look up and you got Blaylock, very speedy outside the tackles. I love what he can also do in the pass game. But yeah, they're getting their running back rotation set, getting the offensive line set. I hate to say this, it's so cliche, but it almost feels like this team is getting hot at the right time. We'll see.
Well, and I think the other thing, you're right on all those. The other thing we haven't mentioned, John Mateer in the second half
Yeah, we're
looked
going to.
like the John Mateer we saw from the first half of the season. When everyone had him as a Heisman front runner, he was running different than what he did even against Ole Miss. Like when he ran, it was very tentative. In the second half, he was tucking the ball and going, and that's why he got 80 yards rushing on Saturday.
Good day.
It reminded you more of why people got really excited about it. And I thought, in a way, and this could be how he works. I don't know, because we've seen him be a little off throwing the last couple of weeks. But in the second half, he started running pretty well. Guess what he started doing as well? Throwing the ball pretty well, other than the RPO at the end of the game. That's a different story. But yeah, yeah. But I mean, other than that, he started throwing like the John Mateer we saw in the first 4 or 5 games of the season. And so maybe he's a guy that needs his running game to actually work to feel confident in himself throwing the ball as well. That way he knows it's not all on his shoulders. I kind of wonder because it just seemed like once he started running, the light switch went off in the passing game, or on in the passing game as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it was kind of a mix of everything, right? You started seeing what if you're a quarterback and you can turn and hand to a running back and he gets 6, 7 yards and sets you up in manageable second, third down, that takes so much pressure off you. And it looked like in the second half, Mateer kind of realized I don't have to be the hero here. We've got a pretty good team. We got a pretty good run game behind this offensive line. And for whatever reason, it looked like the entire offense, Mateer included, caught a rhythm that we just hadn't seen in a couple weeks. And the encouraging thing to me about that, it was kind of a flip from like Texas. They played pretty well in the first half. South Carolina, they played pretty well in the first half, and then it went stagnant. Now you're starting to see it build more towards the end of in the second half. They're starting to catch more rhythm. I like, the possibility of keeping that as a complete game one of these days, do all the first half, and now they're getting there in the second half because the first half was awful. Second half, good. They kind of flipped the script, and maybe they got an off week to work on it. Maybe against Alabama, we can see a team play 2 halves, mistake free, no turnovers, and limit the penalties. I'd love it. Do that, and I'll accept the outcome.
Yeah, I mean,
And I think you also saw in the second half complementary football is even though the defense got those turnovers and that's what saved them in the first half, I thought in the second half you saw a defense that for the most part shut down Tennessee's offense as well.
Dominant.
You know,
Yep.
and it was like, nope, you're not doing anything. And the thing I think a lot of people forget was them doing that against a really good Tennessee offense. That's without R. Mason Thomas, who
Hmm.
hadn't played, after that touchdown run.
And
Kobe
Kobe
McKenzie,
McKenzie. Yeah.
yeah, he wasn't in the lineup. And I want to give credit because I was a teeny bit critical, not saying he was a bad player, of Owen Heineke in the Ole Miss game. I thought you saw a guy though different in the Tennessee game, where we said it looked a little erratic, like with the audibles and everything in the Ole Miss game. Like people were just freaking out about who's making the calls. I thought you saw a guy that probably knew from day one, even though McKenzie was back and forth from questionable to probable, on the availability report. I think the coaches got him ready saying, hey, you're playing a lot, even if Kobe plays. We need you to have your head on. And I thought you saw Owen Heineke, not only with the plays he made, but with his maturity and composure, be a different linebacker than what we saw in that Ole Miss game.
Dude, he was my franchise player of the game on post. I mean, it wasn't just that hit, Randy. I think 13 tackles, 5.5 tackle for losses, and a sack. Of course, that big one and a forced fumble. But he was all over the place. Played like a man possessed. They don't win without him. Kip Lewis, I also thought was outstanding in the second half. The guy was everywhere. Cortland Guillory, a tough night, a freshman on the road against. And look, people have to remember Tennessee was the number one total offense in the SEC. They're good. They've got a bunch of dudes on offense, including at wide receiver. Cortland Guillory was in high school this time last year. And I still thought he held up well. He's going to have some plays he wants back. But all in all, I mean, the secondary, they had ups, they had downs, but in the end, played well enough to win.
no doubt. And
Portland, yeah, he had those two pass interference calls, and one of those I don't think was pass interference, to be honest with you.
Oh,
But
it's fun.
look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was matched up with one of the best receivers in the SEC.
Daly.
Yeah, Dave. And guess what? Six catches for what, 67 yards?
Yeah.
I think you would take that out of a veteran defensive back against Staley, much less a true freshman that could have easily got rattled after those pass interference calls, been scared to, get in there and make contact. You want one criticism I'll give you with Guillory? Wrap up, or at least
Tackle.
go,
Yeah.
or at least go down and knock the legs out from under him. I was like, Cortland, you're killing me. Just lay on the ground, trip him. I don't care. That's my only criticism. But that's a young guy out there trying to make plays. I'm sure those hits he did, like without wrapping up in high school,
They
probably knocked
worked.
those high school receivers' ass on the ground. That's part of growing up in Power Four football, learning things.
Yeah, he'll have a few plays he wants back, and yes, you got to wrap up and take him to the ground. He wasn't alone. I mean, the tackling in the secondary at times got sloppy, Randy. What I like though, and I'll keep going back to it, what's different from this team, opposed to the previous 3 years, down the stretch in a Brent Venables team, a Brent Venables season, when something bad starts happening, right? It just started to snowball, and it never seemed like those teams could come out of it. This time, this team, so I don't know if it's leadership, I don't know if it's talent at certain spots, but for whatever reason, they can pull themselves out of it. That's why they've won 2 SEC road games. That's why they're going to be right there tooth and nail with Alabama, in my opinion. And if they play clean football, they have every chance to beat the Crimson Tide because of what I'm talking about. They can get up off the mat where the previous 3 years seem to have trouble with that.
it makes you wonder.
Remember what, who was it? Jaden Jackson last week that said something, or no, was it Kobe? I can't remember who said something basically about good to know we don't have those kind of attitudes.
Right. Anticipation's killing me. There we go. I hear you.
I wasn't sure who lost who. You all of a sudden were frozen. Are you there still? There we go. Now you're unfrozen.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. But what I was trying to say is, like one of them made a comment basically about how made reference to maybe there was an attitude problem in the locker room, and you kind of wonder if the difference this year, and we have no idea who they were talking about. Is it somebody that transferred out, somebody that graduated, and that's why you're seeing a different type of team bounce back from these situations instead of getting down on themselves? Because yeah, this team is totally different. One thing I want to bring up, Dave, I want your thoughts in because it goes to the end of the game. And we've talked about it, and we've all criticized Brent Venables and his time management in games. And it's kind of funny. I don't know if you were watching the game with audio or if you were just sitting watching the game. Everyone here locally is almost griping still a little, even though it paid out, about Oklahoma going ahead and scoring that touchdown. They got to use the one timeout. Robbins went down. People are like, why didn't he take more knees? But yet, if you watch the game, Kirk Herbstreit, which I kind of had a little bit of agreement with him, I couldn't decide which was right either, basically said, punch it in, go up 2 possessions, you know? And even though the offense was rolling good, Dave, we've seen this offense not be able to run the ball from 2 yards out to score a touchdown. There was a part of me going, "Oh God, why didn't he score that touchdown? What if they can't punch it in? Then you're in a 6 point game
Yeah.
with a touchdown gets you beat." And so I don't know. That's kind of one of those things. I'm not hypercritical of them for time management there because I think there's enough people on the other side that were going, go up 2 possessions, score. There's not enough time for Tennessee, especially with the way your defense is playing. There's not enough time, especially if you're going to go down right at the 1 yard line.
I can see both sides of that. I was critical too. I didn't think that was good time management. I thought Xavier Robinson did the right thing. You go down at the 1, you make them burn a timeout. Then you've got to take a couple knees. They only had one timeout left, right? So you take a knee with 1:43 to go. They burn their last timeout. You come out second down. There's 25 seconds more, third down. You run that thing to about 30 seconds. And where I like that is Tennessee has to let you score regardless. If they have any chance in the game, whether it's on first, second, third, fourth down, they've got to stand aside and let you in the end zone if they have a chance to get the ball back. It's just math. So, I mean, I thought at least they should have taken at least one more knee to make Tennessee burn that timeout. Because, look, Tennessee kicked a really well-executed onside kick, a second. If they recover that, they've got 45 seconds left on OU's side of the field, and a touchdown beats Oklahoma. I don't think they should have ever been there. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, but
And like I say, either way, I'm with you. I'm kind of like what you said. I see both sides of it with what they
Right.
did. I had no problem with if Xavier wouldn't have went down at the goal line and scored the touchdown right there from the start.
True.
I wouldn't have had a big problem with it because here's my one thing. I think the one thing we saw and the reason Tennessee really wasn't able and had to settle for the field goal, not that he was playing prevent, but once Brent basically and they moved down to a certain part of the field, and Brent said, you know what? F this. I'm going back to what we did the entire second half. And Tennessee was stuck again where they couldn't move the ball. So that's why I said I could see either side of it. I'm one that likes points. I'm just one that would have said, score, baby. Just go ahead, punch it in, give us 2 possessions. I trust my defense isn't going to give up 2 scores. That would have just been me. But it worked out. There was no right or wrong. But I just thought that's one that I'm not going to rip the coaching staff for, like some other time management situations.
Yeah, what's weird at the time, I was still in Arkansas from the OBU game watching that. And at the time, I'm like, score. What are you doing, dude? Why do that? And then the more I thought about it and kind of put 2 and 2 together, I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's a very smart, heady play by Xavier. But then they score on the next play. And I'm like, well, if you're going to do that, then why take the knee in the first place? But yeah, it ended up not really making an impact on the game itself. So there's no right, no wrong. Oklahoma gets the win. And these are things, look, I mean, to be honest, Brent Venables hasn't been there very often in these big games. In the fourth quarter, tight, leading with a real chance to win them. And he's going to learn this stuff. He's still got, learning to do as a head coach, and time management is part of it.
no doubt
About it. And I think you're seeing him grow as a coach. And one thing that goes unnoticed that I think, because he's not officially a coach, he's an analyst. I think the bringing in of Kevin Wilson on the sidelines to be an offensive analyst. I don't know if you noticed Saturday. You know who was almost right in Brent's hip pocket?
Kevin?
Kevin Wilson.
Yeah.
That's a guy, no matter what you want to say about him as a head coach, he's had a ton of success as an offensive coordinator. He's had success as a head coach that I think is paying some dividends, helping Brent learn things, especially while he's being the defensive coordinator on top of being a head coach.
Yeah, very well. I mean, look, you can't have too much experience, right? I mean, you can't have too many guys that know what they're talking about and whispering into your ear in certain times. And I thought we really saw growth with Brent as far as the defense goes, because there were times, like you said, they dropped back into 3 deep coverage, just not trying to get beat. And in previous years, that's where he's bringing 5, 6, 7 man pressures, saying to hell with it, go get the guy. And you'd see him get burned over the top. I think he's learned a few lessons, Randy, about playing more safe, about taking points. I can't believe we've gone 20 minutes already without mentioning Tate Sandell. I mean, the MVP of Oklahoma 2025. He and his Daisy Dukes. I mean, Kirk Herbstreit can kiss an ass, but dude, that guy, unbelievable. I mean, UT, San Antonio, and he's just bombing 50-yard field goals like better than pro kickers are. I think he had 300 yards and like yardage of made field goals Saturday. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's why
Told people like, look, do you want to outfit your team with people from, non-power five schools, Kennesaw State, UT? No, you don't want to do that at the portal. But Dave, we're talking about kickers and a punter. Is what they took out.
Yeah.
And my thing is, if a guy's got a strong leg, I don't give a shit what level he's kicking at, because
Yep.
nothing changes from P4 to Group of Five to FCS to FBS. It's a field goal kicker. There's a reason why rookies in the NFL can walk right in and start kicking 65-yarders. I mean, I know it's his second year, but look at Cam Little. He did it right away for the Jacksonville Jaguars from Arkansas. It's because kicking, it doesn't matter how big the guys are on the other side. It's, do you have the leg to kick it that far? And Tate Sandell has been a godsend for this Oklahoma program, because I think it gives also the coaching staff the security of like, hey, you don't have to risk going for a touchdown here if you really
Yeah.
don't think so, because you got 3 points on the board. There was not one time, especially after the first field goal. The first field goal, you're always a little worried because you're like in front of 105,000 fans. Here you go. This is the biggest audience. But once he nailed that kick, there was not one other time when Tate Sandell walked down on that field, I thought, oh, I don't know if he can do this. I mean, it was kind of like, well, that's ball game. You just left them in Oklahoma field goal range. All right. Dead man walking for Tennessee.
Unbelievable. You're right. I mean, I think the dude's like 5'7", a buck 70, and this guy's leg. I mean, show as much leg as you want, young man, as long as you keep bombing field goals like that. I think he won the Lou Groza Award Saturday night. I mean, that was primetime ABC, 50-yard field goals in pressure-packed situations. There was one, they sacked John Mateer. It was on third down, and everybody thought it took OU at field goal range. It just pushed it back to 55, and I mean, that thing cleared the crossbar by maybe that much, but that's the kind of weapon this kid is.
exactly.
And that was the second 55-yarder. And if I remember the stat error correctly, I think that was a Neyland Stadium record. How about that? He did the record twice on Saturday. That's insane, man. I mean,
they're going to hate him for the rest of their lives.
Oh, yeah. Oh, if you've seen Tennessee fans already, I don't know who they hate more right now, him or Josh Heupel. I mean, that's all I know. Yeah.
They might want to pump the brakes on that. Look, I remember pre-Heupel days in Tennessee, man. You're going back to Philip Fulmer, since him to Heupel, there's a lot of bad. I mean, Pruitt, well, no, not good. Lane Kiffin, no. I mean, they've had their ups and downs. Heupel at least has them there-ish. They were in the playoffs last year, for God's sake.
I agree. But
I'll also say for all the Oklahoma fans, thank God Brent's winning, because no one can start preaching to bring Josh in, because you don't want that toad anywhere near this program.
Oh, if they did that, I would boycott, dude. I'd riot. I mean, hopefully I never hear an OU fan bring up they want Josh Heupel and Norman, ever.
I know.
I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, he's a good coach, and you're right. I think it's like if he was at OU right now doing what he's at Tennessee, I don't think you could gripe about it either, in the sense of making – but it's like, no, I mean, Oklahoma fans would want him. I'm like, guys, he hasn't done anything, to warrant getting this job over somebody else,
Right.
So, yeah.
As an
anyway.
OC alone, I'm fine with him. A head coach, I'm not sold. But that being said, Tennessee should pump I'm fine with them having him. Stop bitching.
But I think there's a difference between going to hire a guy doing that
Right.
and you already have the guy. That's the big difference. Or firing him. It's not fireable. Even though, my God, you want to bring up something. We always talk about Brent's time management.
Josh Heupel
On that last 4 minutes, I'm like, what are you doing? You do realize you're down 2 possessions, right?
Yeah.
And they had to get it done before the 2-minute timeout, where they would have had 3 spots to stop the clock. And then what was so crazy, the 2-minute warning or 2-minute timeout, whatever they call it in college, happened. First play out, that's when they go for the end zone on a deep pass and score a touchdown. It's like, why? Which I'm happy they didn't, but I'm like, why didn't you do this like with 2:15 left to go, where you'd have 3 timeouts left to try to get the ball back? It was really bad, weird time management on his part.
Yeah, it was. Them scoring the touchdown the first play after the 2-minute warning kind of eased that off a little bit. But it was a good ball game, Randy. I thought the first half it was sloppy by Oklahoma standards. I mean, I think 8 penalties, 8 of the 11 in the first half. They kind of cleaned it up in the second. But look, the second half, Oklahoma dominated Tennessee. I thought on both sides of the ball, it wasn't really close. Oklahoma just top to bottom was the better football team. They ran the ball at will. That offense got to a rhythm. And Tennessee, I think, on 3 straight possessions, ran like 9 plays and picked up 8 yards. I mean, it's just a total dominant performance in the second half to close that one out.
No doubt. And
You talk about the run game. That's why I always feel pretty good about this defense, even though they've given up some points lately and stuff. But you always feel pretty good because the one thing they haven't done that they've controlled this year is the run game. And
Right.
if you can make the other team one dimensional, your defense has a pretty damn good shot. And the only time that it was tough, I really thought, even though Texas I know scored points, but they still controlled that game defensively for the most part, right?
Right.
It was the Ole Miss game. And why was that? Chambliss is a running
Yep.
quarterback. So all of a sudden, that made it more difficult. It wasn't just about, you know, containing the quarterback like I thought Saturday was. Aguilar, we talked about it last week, Dave. He's mobile, but he's not mobile tucking the ball and running for 40 yards. He's mobile to run around and try to wait till your receivers get open. And that's kind of one reason. Just talking just a little about next week. I think Oklahoma will have a shot. Simpson's the same type of quarterback, mobile, but he's not going to go running around for 100 yards or anything like that. He's just going to try to stay alive. That plays to Princeton defense.
No doubt about it. If you want a formula to have success against Brent Venables, you need a mobile quarterback, somebody that can kill you with his legs. I mean, Chambliss did that. They tried to stop it. I mean, Brent played a spy. He tried to do it with a defensive lineman, defensive end. They just weren't fast enough to keep up. He went to man coverage. Everybody's running with their backs turned. Nobody's got eyes. I mean, the guy was just, you got to tip your cap. He beat Brent's defense in 3 different phases, and that's at points. Sometimes that happens. I mean, Deshaun Watson back at Clemson, Brent knows. That's why you get guys that can run and throw because they're hard to defend. But that's about been the only guy all season is Chambliss to really tear up a Brent Venables defense. There's not too many of those guys around. I'm with you. I don't think Ty Simpson is that good of a runner. Now, he can damn sure throw it, Randy, but if they can stop Alabama first and second down and force them to third and long, I mean, that Oklahoma pass rush is what it is against anybody in the country. So I would, again, like Oklahoma's chances.
yeah,
I think the bye week comes at a perfect time for Oklahoma,
Okay.
too, just for the fact what we talked about. R. Mason Thomas banged up, Kobe McKenzie banged up. I don't know about R. Mason Thomas. I know Brent said, it's early on. They'll give updates later, which probably is next week on the, availability report and everything like that. But the one guy I expect to be back healthy is Kobe McKenzie, I would think. If he was already going from probable to questionable last week, give him another 13 days, and that's only going to make them deeper and better. I mean, as great as Owen Heineke plays, it would be nice to have Kobe McKenzie in there where Owen is even a little more fresh. Kobe's a little more fresh, which makes that defense even more lethal.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about, we brought up a lot of different names. A name I want to bring up, a guy that we talked a lot about preseason, a guy it seems like we have for 2 years, but PJ Adibeore, to me, made a splash play and it really played a good game. Late in the game, I think Tennessee had a 3rd and 4. OU had not done well on third down on defense. He beat his man inside and stuffed Aguilar in the backfield to force a punt at a really big time. But it wasn't just the play. It was the fact he was out there in the fourth quarter. Showed me that coaches are starting to trust him enough to put him in that spot on this defense. You want to talk about making a D deeper and better. That guy, we've been waiting for a very long time for the light to come on. But if it indeed has, watch out. That's another weapon off the edge for this OU defense.
no doubt. And he's a guy
That's been coming along, I think, all year long. You and I have noticed it, like more and more, you're starting to see that little, hey, he's
Right.
doing something at this point in time. And I'm like you, I kind of thought Saturday was, at least on the big stage, the first time that he really stepped out and said, I'm here. And if he can come along, especially with what Taylor Wine's doing as another defensive end, that makes this unit deep. And I think we're starting to see it's kind of crazy. We always joke about it because it's coach speak. But Brent and the coaches talked 2 years ago about needing to get competitive depth. And
Going.
and I think we're starting to see a little bit, especially on the defensive side, why they were saying that. Because you're not seeing this huge drop off when our Mason Thomas goes out injured, you know. I mean, a lot of people are like Marvin Jones Jr., you know, he hasn't done a whole lot. You know, you'll hear some of that criticism. And I think all of a sudden you saw on Saturday, there's a reason they went and got him. When R.
Yeah.
Mason goes out,
Yeah.
hey, he's basically the leader picking up the other side, and Taylor and PJ can just go do their thing and not have all the pressure thrust upon them. And it's kind of it's amazing to see the depth that they've got at defensive end and the defensive line, and really the linebacker position we're seeing pay off here over the last couple of weeks. Because what's crazy, Sammy's truly was coming in right, the backup middle linebacker. Owen starting. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, but yet Sammy's playing a lot and he's playing really well.
Depth.
That shows you a whole lot about the depth on this defense.
Yeah, too many morons just stat watch about defensive linemen and say, oh, they're not doing it. Watch the players, watch the impact they make. Marvin Jones Jr. on Tennessee's 4th down play to where Aguilar hit the guy in the face. He couldn't turn his body around and get adjusted for the ball. You know why? Because Marvin Jones Jr. bumped him off his route from his defensive end spot. Not going to show up in the stat sheet, but the guy does a ton on the defensive line for Oklahoma. A huge get. And, yeah, we saw why when R. Mason Thomas went out of the ball game. It's not just defense, though. I mean, you want to talk competitive depth. Okay, Derek Simmons, you know, you lose him at tackle, you insert Ryan Foje, they might be even better at that spot. You lose a couple guards, you put an EPL, okay, they might be better. I mean, they have stacked, especially on the line of scrimmage, really good pieces and really good depth across the board, and that's why they find themselves right here at 7-2.
Hey, and I'll say this.
You know, talking about Simmons, I think if you put a true serum in the coaches, I think they wish he would have stayed healthy and been the starter in some ways out there. But in the end, it may be a godsend. And I don't mean it negative against Simmons.
Sure.
It forced them to put Foje at tackle. And now all of a sudden, in my opinion, you got your left and right tackle for the next at least 2 more years.
Okay.
And with EPL, you got a guard. You know, I mean, so it's kind of forced going ahead and using that youth, whether Simmons was playing better or not. It's made this, you know, Bill go, all right, these are my best guys. Let's put them out there. And even if it doesn't fully pay off this year, it pays off next year and the following year.
Yeah, and look, it's so weird to be here, you know, talking to Cord through Total Coverage Sports, goes to Texas, talking about Texas and Oklahoma. The two kind of mirror each other right now. They've both been written off for dead. They've both been, you know, they suck, that they're done, they lost this. Now all of a sudden, 11 and 12 in their rankings, both have everything out in front of them, both pretty much win and end scenarios right now. When again, they were lifeless. Coming off Ole Miss last week, look, I'll be honest, I didn't like Oklahoma's chances because of what we've seen. Why would you after 3 years of, you know, when something goes bad, the snowball starts. They finally stopped it in Knoxville. That's why we can sit here and talk competitive depth, doing good things on the O-line, because they did do good things on the O-line, and all of a sudden, going the bye week, things look up opposed to down. Crazy up and down year so far.
It really is. And
That's what I've tried to tell Texas fans, that want to act like this team or that team is so much better, you know, they're so much better than like these teams are, they're mirror images. Both really good defense.
Yep.
Both okay offenses. I mean, let's be honest. I saw the stat last night on SportsCenter. I knew it was bad because of the first play with Wingo going 75 yards. Do you know how many yards they got from behind the line in scrimmage and passing game? Basically meaning Texas caught the ball behind the line of scrimmage, and because of poor tackling, a bunch of yards. 190 yards from behind the line of scrimmage.
Out of what,
You know,
like 303 total passing yards? Wow.
so, I mean, that
kind of tells you what we're talking about. Neither offense is a world-beating offense, but the defenses are really good. I mean, it's weird how they both mirror each other, and I love it that people are still trying to figure a way. At least people around me that have talked to me are like, "How do they meet in the SEC title game?" That's not going to happen.
I mean, there's a route, but it's like, you know, finding the Ark of the Covenant hard for them to get there.
the biggest thing is
Mississippi State would have to shit down their leg because, I mean, they don't have a lot left on their schedule. They got one loss.
Ole Miss, yeah.
So they're in the SEC title game. That's why I'm always like, people, don't even worry about it. That's not happening. and I'll say this: Texas fans won't like me saying it. Oklahoma fans won't like me saying it. It's better if they don't go to the SEC title game.
And still make the playoffs?
Yeah, because you would
Still, if they both are, let's say, 10-2,
Yep.
they're in the playoffs. They go to the SEC title game and play Ole Miss, or if they lose a few games and it's Georgia again or whatever,
You lose,
and they lose that game and they're now 10-3.
Yep.
They're probably out of the playoff, and that team that didn't go to the title game, whether it be Oklahoma or Texas, they're going into the playoffs.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's kind of,
Crazy.
I think that's where we've had this discussion before, Dave. Sometimes I don't know if these conferences, I know it's a big payday, don't need to look at things and go, you know what? Maybe we don't need a conference title game. We need to figure something out here,
Yeah.
because I mean, you can cost yourself a playoff team. I think the Big 12's in that spot. I think they would have a shot at two playoff teams, but unless whoever wins the BYU Texas Tech game goes on and wins and loses the title game and the other team has to win out, that's the only prayer the Big 12 has to get two in right now. Basically, if Tech wins Saturday, BYU needs to win out and Tech needs to continue winning, and then BYU winning Saturday. And I think there's an outside chance the Big 12 could get two games at that point.
Well, I mean, with the 12-team format, let's call it like it is right now. Conference championship games are useless. I mean, you used to have something to play for in these games. The winner would go on to good bowls, and a couple of years ago, the winner would go on to the playoffs, and the loser. And now, with 12 teams getting in, I mean, well, what are they really playing for? You've got more to lose than you do gain by going to these games. I hate to say that because I love college football. I love what made it what it is. And look, conference championship games are part of that fabric, but the truth is right now, there really is no reason to have them with 12 teams that make the playoffs.
look.
If I were the conferences, I think that this is where their greed's getting to them, but they could still get a really big payday. There's been talk of expansion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of the playoff. I think it's where all these conferences that are tied up, they need to get together and go, hey, wait, we're all good with expansion. We're going to eliminate our playoff games. And then all of a sudden, those two teams that would have been in the championship game, they're going on into the college football playoff. I don't know what the payout is for those schools, but all of a sudden you're getting two shares, two teams going on. I got a feeling that would almost make up what they make in the playoff game or in the championship game, and you're getting more national exposure.
Yeah, I hope that never happens, man. I mean, look, there's something magical about it. I think it's December 4th, most years, that Saturday that you've got conference championships kick off at 11 o'clock on ABC and then go on all day and night. But look, part of the magic of that was because whoever won it, it actually mattered and meant something. Now, with that gone, it's like we're just watching an exhibition game with pretty much the loser out when they didn't have to play this game in the first place. I don't know. That's going to be part of something I got to figure out.
That was the only reason I brought up the expansion, because you could still do December 4th, but all of a sudden it's 4 or 5 playoff games on that Saturday.
Hell yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I just think there's ways to do it and almost make the sport bigger and better. And to be honest, if they did that, as much as I love college football, you get it done with the playoffs by January 1.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think you play it all month long in December, and that would be awesome. Can you imagine college football, the focal point for the entire month of December?
I'd love it, man. I mean, how much can you really mess with tradition? I don't know. I think people that love college football will watch it, regardless what format it's in, regardless of what you want to call it. If you want to call it an expanded playoff, your de facto conference championship games, okay. I think people go along with that. It's something that they're going to have to discuss, especially if they expand beyond 12 teams, because right now it's right there at the precipice of, do these conference championship games really matter? Do we really have to play them? If you go to 16, the answer to that is no. So I would assume something comes from that.
I know we've gotten
A little everywhere, but one other thing I'll say about the playoffs, not breaking down the rankings. I'm a proponent of a G5 getting a spot in.
Sure.
I really am. But I'm not a proponent of a G5 not getting in if they can't even be ranked in the top 25.
Absolutely agree.
I mean, that's my only caveat. Like last year, Boise State making it in, 110% deserved. Memphis wins out, like they're in the playoff now. They'll probably be in the top 25. I won't have any problem with them getting in. But if everyone in the G5 starts knocking each other around, and losing some games here and there, and it's a 2 or 3 loss team like South Florida is playing tonight, they're up 28-10, they could still weasel their way in. If all of a sudden it's a 3-loss G5 team,
Yeah.
no, I'm sorry, I don't care. You don't need to make the playoff. And that's not coming from an SEC fan. That means if that means BYU makes it as a second Big 12 team, if Miami makes it as a second ACC, it's just you want to have the best teams. And at that point in time, if they can't be ranked in the college football top 25, they're not one that's going to make it one of the best games for the playoffs. That's my only, and that's where people start bagging on the college football playoff. They got to figure the G5 thing out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. If it's deserved, great. If you're just going to do it because you say you have to, I'm not here for that. I mean, that's a team that's going to get poleaxed in the opening round, 55-0. Nobody's going to care. Those are the worst playoff games, and we've gotten a couple of them the last guy. I mean, it's been boring to watch, been horrible to watch. So, yeah, I'm with you. They'll have to figure that one out. But, Randy, let's jump around the league a little bit. Kind of brought up Texas, a big win over Vanderbilt, the Commodores. Made it interesting late. Now, if you ask Texas fans, they'll say that the white cap and then the refs were against them in the fourth quarter. I don't know. I saw kind of a 2-point conversion. Looked a little weird while they called it good. But if your defense gives up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, that's problematic. And Diego Pavia tore him up in the fourth.
Hey, I've been saying
About Texas defense for the last 3 weeks, not being a hater.
Yeah.
They've got some issues.
Yeah.
I mean, they faced 3 of the Kentucky's offense.
Yeah.
Is crap. Look what Auburn did to them last week. They gave up 300 yards to Boley, or however you say his name, the quarterback of Kentucky. Mississippi State. I mean, they were getting blitzkrieg from Jeff Lebby, and so I think there are some issues that Texas has to worry about. But part of that is, do they know they're talented enough in those 3 games we just talked about to win, and they didn't go play with as much fire and fury as they should have. I thought they did start the Vanderbilt game, but also Vanderbilt has done one thing, and we talk about talent level, Dave. They've tackled well all year long and played fundamental defense, all right, and fundamental football in general. That first half on Saturday
Yeah.
was everything, and part of it was because of Texas and the athletes, but that is everything that Vanderbilt hasn't done all year long.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Sloppy play, horrible tackling. But, yeah, Texas has athletes, bad combination there. To me, Vanderbilt was like a balloon. It was fun to watch as it went up, but eventually it was going to pop. Texas just popped it. I mean, Diego Pavia is really, really good, but how much can one guy do when your talent level around him is that much lower than every other team? Been amazing, and they've made Vanderbilt something that you have to respect every single week, or they will kick your ass. But I thought, eventually that was going to run out of gas. NBA Horn Boy, we were missing Michael Tapp. I was going to bring up that's a big miss on the back end. McDonald, Muhammad for some time. Also, when the defense going to crumble when you let Kentucky get 40 minutes of time of possession. Yeah, you got to get off the field, no doubt. You got to stop them on third down and get the football back. But Michael Tapp is a big miss on that back end, Randy. He's we talked the quarterback of the defense being the Mike backer. Michael Tapp is that for Texas on the back end. So I can kind of see. And look, I mean, these are SEC athletes we're talking about. Vanderbilt has higher academic standards as a private school. They're not going to reach what Kentucky or Mississippi State has. I mean, but those guys still have SEC athletes running around, and they're tough to guard, and they're tough to play defense again. They're going to score points is the point. I don't care how good your defense is.
no doubt about it.
And that's why it wasn't a criticism, of Texas. I mean, we've seen it with Oklahoma, who came into the Big 12, the SEC schedule, and they hadn't really given up anything. All of a sudden, they're playing teams that have SEC athletes, SEC talent, and you give stuff up. And, it's going to be a dogfight the rest of the year. I mean, it's kind of funny how great the schedule is. Not this weekend, but next weekend, back to back.
Yeah.
Oklahoma at Alabama, Texas at Georgia. I mean,
huge.
That's pretty epic. And to Hornboy's point here, I think both teams' defenses that have been tested and stressed, they are getting ready to face, I think, their biggest test, each of them, of the year next Saturday.
Yeah, we just talked about these teams mirroring each other. It's kind of weird. They both have a bye week, and then they're both going into Alabama and Georgia with everything still to play in front of them. Texas with only the one conference loss, stands a little bit better than Oklahoma in that regard. But still, if they lose, I think they're out of the playoff race. So next week's going to be absolutely epic and awesome. I can't wait for that. The schedule this week, I mean, yeah, it's okay. Any games catch your eye?
I think
Missouri's one to watch. I mean, what Zolars is going to be the starting quarterback this week, there for Missouri, and it's just going to be interesting to watch them to go. Has this team recovered? Have they figured something out during their bye week? Once they've got the new quarterback and everything in there, that's kind of what we have to wait and see. With Missouri, that's kind of the one that, and maybe that has just as much to do with Dave because Missouri is on Oklahoma's schedule coming up, and so you want to see what that's going to be like the week after Alabama, the type of team Oklahoma is going to play. I think I lost Dave.
oh, but
I think the other thing when you look around the league, it's not even so much about games and oh,
I got a text from Dave.
hey folks, this power just went out. Stand fast. This is very interesting, but we're still on board. But I think there's a lot of good football games around the country coming up here in the next few weeks as well. The other one I want to watch is I don't think it's this week, and that's Navy Notre Dame. Just checking them out because that's going to be a very interesting game for the group of five. You know, and because all of a sudden, if Navy's able to upset Notre Dame, not only will that knock Notre Dame out, does that move Navy into the spot where Memphis is, or make it a double combination there as far as between them and Memphis fighting it out? So it's going to be very interesting watching those teams as we move forward.
Yeah, like
Their NBA homeboy, Mizzou, Texas A&M could be an upset, and outside, what, Oregon, Iowa, that's another one that could be an upset because you're right. Iowa, I think, has got a really good defense, not a lot of offense, but I think we saw some weakness in Oregon in their loss. They're not the same team they were last year with Dylan Gabriel offensively. That's one I kind of want to watch and check everything out there as well because I mean, those are programs when I mean, Hornboy, you're a Texas guy. Those are programs we're talking about for, you know, playoff spots. I'm not as much on the Mizzou A&M game being an upset just because I got to see if Mizzou has a quarterback now. If it was before the injury, I think that it would be all done. But that's kind of the one thing I'd look at. But we'll be back next week. Dave's Power is not going to be on for a while, so I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. One boy, thanks for joining us as always. Thanks to everyone for listening. We'll be back again next. We're planning on Wednesday. We'll be back at 7 o'clock next Wednesday to preview the Oklahoma Alabama game and Georgia Texas game right here on Red River North.